What if I told you the man who invented the game cartridge, the very idea that made the Atari, Nintendo, and PlayStation possible, was almost erased from history? His name was Jerry Lawson, the engineer behind the Fairchild Channel F, the first swappable cartridges for a home console. So why did his invention change gaming forever, yet leave him forgotten? This is the heartbreaking story of Jerry Lawson. Our story doesn't start in Silicon Valley. It begins in Connecticut, inside a research lab owned by a bowling company, AMF. There, an engineer named Norman Alpert worked on automation systems, from food ordering computers to digital bowling scorekeepers. But when AMF moved to South Carolina, Alpert stayed behind. With a handful of colleagues, he started a small company called Alpex Computer Corporation, hoping to build computerized devices for everyday use. Their first project, a computerized cash register. But when the deal fell apart, Alpex was left with debt, layoffs, and no clear future. Until co-founder Wallace Kirshner made one bold suggestion. What about doing video games? Back then, video games were brand new, Pong ruled the arcades, and the Magnavox Odyssey was the first to bring games home. But these systems had one major flaw. Every game was built into the hardware. No swapping, no updates. Alpex's engineers imagined something no one had done before, a console where you could change the game itself. In 1974, Alpex started Project Raven, short for Remote Access Video Entertainment. They used a new kind of technology, the Intel microprocessor, a computer chip that could run programs stored in memory. That was the key. Games could now be software, not hardware. But there was a problem. Memory was expensive. Each game had to fit into less than 256 bytes. That's smaller than a single paragraph of text. Even so, engineer Lawrence Haskell made it work. His first creation was a new kind of Pong, faster, smarter, more dynamic. Players could move in every direction, and each match felt alive. It was fun, competitive, and more importantly, it worked. But the biggest innovation came next. They needed a way to store and swap those tiny games. So Alpex built a plastic cartridge that plugged into their console. Borrowing ideas from cassette storage, it protected the circuits inside. Simple, durable, revolutionary. That little plastic box would change gaming forever. In 1975, one company saw potential. Fairchild Semiconductor, one of the founding names of Silicon Valley. Fairchild had helped invent the modern microchip. But by the mid-1970s, the company was struggling. They'd missed the calculator boom, lost engineers to Intel, and needed a comeback. That comeback came in the form of Alpex's Raven project. Fairchild had just built a new microprocessor, the F8, and the idea of pairing it with a video game console was too good to ignore. They brought in one of their top engineers to evaluate the system, Jerry Lawson. In late 1975, Lawson and marketer Gene Landrum flew to Connecticut to see the prototype. What they found looked rough, a metal box with a calculator keypad. But when Jerry started playing, he saw something no one else did. He saw the future of gaming. Back in California, Jerry got to work. He and industrial designer Nicholas Talesfore built a controller unlike anything before, a hybrid between a joystick and a detonator. It could rotate, push, and pull. The first truly multi-directional game controller. This wasn't just a toy, it was a platform. A console that could sell games, not just hardware. In February 1976, Fairchild officially signed a deal with Alpex. They would produce the first programmable home video game console in history. Its name, Channel F. Short for Channel Fun. It was the beginning of something incredible. A system that introduced player scores, pause buttons, and most importantly, the cartridge slot. Jerry Lawson had just helped change the future of entertainment. The Channel F proved that video games could evolve. That technology could be more than a single experience. But behind the innovation was a story of struggle, and a man whose brilliance was almost erased from history. In 1976, when Fairchild submitted the Channel F to the Federal Communications Commission (FCC) for approval, the console failed the emission tests. The signals leaking from the RF modulator and the console's components produced too much electromagnetic noise. It wasn't compliant with the standards for unintentional radiators under Part 15. Fairchild engineers had to redesign shielding, shorten controller cables, ADM-Eto cans, all to satisfy the FCC lab. That delay meant their product missed critical market windows at the holiday season. Now, consider many consoles from the era, including various units of the Atari 2600 family and others, by Odyssey-era hardware appear to have been approved or sold without such documented delays or public redesigns for emission issues. For example, early Atari machines relied on heavy shielding and yet reached the market quickly. Jerry Lawson, a tall, determined man from Brooklyn, stood in a space where many others did not. He led the team that integrated Fairchild's F8 microprocessor, invented the swappable cartridge interface, yet the company held the patent, took ownership of the product, and the world moved on. The delay in FCC approval did more than cost time. It cost momentum, it cost market share, and ultimately helped competitors catch up. So, while the channel of innovation was open, the path to market was narrower. Jerry Lawson and the Fairchild team had the idea first, the cartridge system. They filed, they built, but their product hit regulatory drag at a moment when speed mattered. Meanwhile, others with stronger backing, faster go-to-market, and less waiting at the regulatory gate surged ahead. Fairchild promoted the technology, but not the man who made it real. When Atari entered the market and overshadowed them, Fairchild didn't fight for their legacy. They quietly let it die on Jerry. He moved on, carrying the weight of what could have been. Here's the hardest truth of all. Jerry Lawson didn't even own the patent to his invention. Like many engineers of that era, his creations belonged entirely to his employer, Fairchild Semiconductor. That means the patent for the swappable cartridge was held by the company, not the man who made it work. And when other companies, like Atari, used similar technology, Fairchild never defended the patent. They didn't protect Jerry's idea, and they didn't protect his legacy. So the world moved on, believing that Atari had invented the game cartridge system, when, in truth, it all began with Jerry Lawson. After leaving Fairchild, Jerry never stopped creating. He founded VideoSoft, one of the first black-owned video game companies, and later dedicated his time to mentoring young engineers. He taught kids how to build, how to code, and how to believe in themselves, even when no one else did. He never became rich. He never got the spotlight, but he built something bigger than a console. He built a legacy that would outlive him. Jerry Lawson passed away in 2011, just 1 month after being honored by the International Game Developers Association for his contributions to gaming. It took over 30 years for the industry to finally say his name. In 2022, Google celebrated his birthday with a Google Doodle that let users build their own retro games, a tribute to the man who made it all possible.